And today we are talking about hydrangeas and taking seeds from hydrangeas, the best time to do it, how to do it, and all the steps along the way. So if you'll follow this guide, you'll be able to produce hydrangeas from seeds very, very easily. So let's get started. I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer so you can get a better look at what we're talking about today. So these are oak leaf hydrangeas, and where I'm from, these are always called wild hydrangeas, but they do grow quite a bit in the forest of where I'm from, zone 7A. And this is the perfect time to take them because you can see that the blooms have faded from their beautiful summertime whites into this dark brown, and they're quite papery. When you feel of them, you can hear just a kind of a papery sound as you're touching. So that's the time you know that the blooms are mature. They've turned brown, they're very papery, and there's a helicopter flying over, so give me a second. Okay, now that Airwolf has passed, we can go back to talking about hydrangeas, but this hydrangea is now a mature bloom. It's faded and it's ready to be taken, and the seeds are ready to be taken. You can hear that. I guess you heard me say earlier, I don't know if you could hear it over the noise, but it has a very papery sound. So that's a sign that the blooms are mature and they are ready to be taken, and they probably contain a lot of seeds. Now, you need to do this before the seeds drop, because if you wait too long, and it's early fall now, if you wait too long, all the seeds will drop or be taken by birds, and you won't have a chance to propagate the hydrangea you want to. Now, when you're choosing the plant you want to take your hydrangea seeds from, you want to choose a plant that is healthy and vigorous, and this plant is quite robust. I believe it's a good 7 feet tall, and it's been pruned back a little bit last year. It's not really a plant that we have to prune back, but we just want to keep it down to a manageable size where it doesn't overtake this area. If it wasn't pruned, I think it might grow up to 8 feet tall. So you're going to want to take these cuts close to the stem, leave about an inch at the base of the flower. It's not critical how close, it's just that you want to get all of the flower and all of the seeds. So we're going to do that in fast motion, and I'll collect all of the seed pods, all these spent flowers on this hydrangea shrub, and then we'll move out to the greenhouse. So guys, we have a bucket of hydrangea seeds, and we're going to go on to the next step. But this is the perfect dried amount. We haven't had very much rain, but if we had rain, I would want to take these and put them in a cool, dry place, maybe even with a fan blowing on them overnight to dry out the seeds. It's a lot easier to collect if your flower heads are completely dry. So let's move on to the greenhouse, and we'll go on to the next step. Hello, Chi Chi. Okay guys, so once your blooms are dry, whether you got them off of the shrub itself or you had to dry them in the inside manually, you want to make sure they are dry, because that's going to make it easier to separate the seeds from the flowers. So that's the key. I'm using a rather large plastic container. You can also use something as small as a shoebox, and with a top on it, you can shake it back and forth. You can use plastic containers of various sizes, but I just like making sure I can get the maximum amount of seeds and I don't spill any or drop them in this large plastic tub that is the perfect size for doing this. Okay guys, so this is going to be a little bit noisy on the mic, but I'm just going to take these and shake them out, and I do see some seeds falling, and we'll have to come back later. There's a lot of debris as well, so we're going to have to separate the two, but you'll be able to identify the seeds pretty easy. But we're just kind of breaking them up and allowing the seeds to fall into the container. And so it just takes a matter of minutes to do this. But once you remove the leaves, you can clearly see the seeds, and I'll do a close-up shot of that. But I'm just going to go through and continually shake and disturb the flowers to allow the seeds to fall off. And I can see the seeds right there. I'm going to leave a few on one of the tips so you can get an idea. I'll come back later and show you that exactly what we're looking for. But I'm not breaking the flowers down. I'm just gently running my fingers through them to get as much of the seeds off as possible. And so I'm just going to go through and get each one of them to do that. I'll give you a close-up of the flower head in just a moment. I'm just going to keep going through and doing this process. Okay guys, it's kind of hard for me to get a good shot of this. I'm trying to do a zoom on it, but you can see there's quite a few seeds on this flower stem. Now the seeds themselves are very small and very dark, and they're almost hard to see. As I showed you in that previous clip, they're very small. So that's one thing when you're separating the leaves from the stems and the flowers. You want to make sure you're very careful. Using a large container like this is going to help you. Now the next step is going to be removing all of this debris and just disposing of it or putting it into the compost bin. But we've separated almost all of the seeds from the flowers, the leaves, and the stems. Now we've separated our seeds from the majority of our leaves. There's a few leaves still in there, but I'm going to continue to take these and put them back in our original container. I will tell you that if it's still warm outside, you're probably going to see a lot of small insects in there, including spiders. Spiders in our area really love. I came across maybe 2 or 3 roaches and about half a dozen spiders. So if you don't like spiders, this may be something you don't want to do. You might want to consider purchasing your seeds online. Now the quantity of your seeds are very important. You're going to need to realize that a majority of seeds, depending on your circumstances, how long they were on the shrub, maybe up to 50% or more may not germinate. So just realize you're going to probably want to take a larger quantity than you think you're going to want. So if you're going to take, let's say, 3 or 4 ounces, go through all of your hydrangeas and maximize that number. If you only have one shrub, take all the seeds you can. Now the seeds themselves are going to have a limited shelf life, so you don't want to plan on doing this 2 or 3 years down the road. Maybe I would plan on using these next season at its latest, but I plan on doing this right away, putting them into their trays and moving on to the next step, which will be another video that I have upcoming really soon about propagating from seed, starting from seed hydrangea. So anyways, that is the next step, is putting it in paper bags or envelopes, marking the date on the envelope and exactly what it is, hydrangea, and the type of hydrangea, because it's easy to get these mixed up. You're looking at seeds, you have no idea what you got. You might think you might have a spice or something in there. Now the reason I'm recommending a paper bag, like a lunch bag or a paper envelope, a mailing envelope, is because plastic bags, if there's any moisture in these seeds, or if you just didn't let it dry quite enough, we're lucky because we had a lot of dry weather, so mine are perfectly dry. But if you think they're not and you put them in a Ziploc bag, that could cause mold and cause a large seed failure. Now the perfect place to store the seeds is in a cool, dark place. The refrigerator's crisper tray is great, but you want to make sure that if it is in paper, that it's not coming in contact with vegetables that have a lot of moisture, because again, that's going to cause a problem with mold and you might lose all of your seeds. So make sure they are dry in a container. You might get away with putting the paper inside of a plastic bag. Maybe that barrier will help separate and the paper itself will absorb any moisture, but I would just try to stay away from plastic. But if there's no other way around it, yeah, you can use a plastic bag in your crisper tray, but not sitting on a shelf in your kitchen, because you want that plastic bag. You don't want that plastic bag causing a moisture problem. So remember, the refrigerator's crisper tray, avoid any contact with moisture, and you want to make sure that it's outside of a plastic bag. Now, if you want to test your seeds' viability, instead of doing the entire lot of them at one time, take a small amount, just a very small handful, and trying to germinate those before you're ready to, just to check and make sure they're going to germinate. That's always a good idea. That way you don't sit and wait all winter long and think, okay, in the springtime I have all these seeds. This will at least let you know if the seeds are not viable, go find other seeds from other shrubs. Now, just a note on storage. If you plan on keeping them in a basement area or a garage or something like that, if there's a chance that any small pests like roaches or rodents might get to them, this might be an irresistible snack for them. So they may actually chew through the paper envelope or bag. So just remember, you want to make sure that pests don't have access to them. And that's why it's important to put them in the paper first and then put them in a plastic container, just to make sure they're perfectly safe for the entire winter. Now the next step is extremely important. You have to stratify the seeds. That's just a fancy way of saying you're going to need to put them in the refrigerator for about 3 weeks. So if you've got them stored in a cabinet or in a plastic container or wherever you have them, if they're not already in the refrigerator, put them in the refrigerator 3 weeks before you plan on seeding them into your seed trays, because that stratification is going to let the seed know they've just went through the cooling process, winter is now over, and they feel the warmth of the heating mat or whatever you have them. That's going to help the germination rate. Now your planting depth is very, very shallow. What I would recommend, since hydrangeas like a little bit more acidic soil, is just to sprinkle them on the soil top, then come back and put about 1/8 of an inch of peat moss. That will help just cover them, but you want about 1/8 of an inch, very small amount. So just dust them lightly with that peat moss and they'll be ready to go. And once they're in that soil, you're going to have to be patient, because it takes a few weeks just for the germination process to start. So just remember, give them about 3, possibly 4 weeks to go into that germination phase and you start to see something happening. Once your seedlings have true leaves on them, not the initial 2 leaves that come out, but true leaves start to form, that's when they're ready to go into a small 4-inch container individually, one at a time, and that way they'll be able to grow into their own beautiful hydrangea plant. Now, hydrangeas do grow quite easily from cuttings, but I just like the idea of starting from seed. It's just a great experiment to see if you can do it, and kids love it. So if you have kids around and you want to do something interesting over the winter when there's not a lot happening, do this project and they will love it. Okay guys, I just want to give you one final close-up of the seeds, and they are truly small. You can see a lot of seeds mixed in here, and there is some debris also still in there, so I'll probably go through and remove some more of the leaves. But anyways, that is a good amount of seeds. It will give me a chance to propagate them. If you're interested in the propagation method and the trays and each step along the way, I'm going to do about a 40-point step, run through it very quickly. Look for that video in my video list. It's not up yet, but it will be a future video, so that will help you along the way. One thing I didn't mention is that I have multiple types of hydrangea in the yard, but the reason I chose the oat leaf is they were already dry. I'm still waiting on the mop heads, lace leaves to finish up that drying process. I looked at them this morning and they still look like they weren't quite ready. Still look like they were in that process. So this will probably be the first that you collect if you have multiple types of hydrangea. If you have the oat leaf already, this will be the one you take in early fall, and then you can go to next month and then wait to November if you have to. Just want to make sure that the flower head is completely dry, or it looks dry, and don't forget the drying process. That's very important. Hey guys, I just want to say thanks so much for watching. I know there's a screaming bird outside, but he's really happy. Maybe he's wanting some hydrangea seeds for a snack, and he's just trying to let me know that. But anyways, again, thanks for watching. Thanks for the subscribers. Thanks for the video views. I really appreciate each one of you, especially for those people who leave comments. If you leave a critical comment, that's even better, because critiquing someone, as long as it's not done mean-spiritedly, is a great way to educate someone so they can think for themselves. So anyways, all comments are appreciated. Have a great day.